Welcome to a deep dive into, well, into something that really challenges how we think about reality itself. We're looking at a single document today, one that attempts nothing less than a theory of everything. And we're not just talking physics here, like linking gravity and quantum stuff. This is trying to fuse physical laws, consciousness, even metaphysics, all using mathematics.
That's right. We're diving into what the source material calls the vector field theory, or VFT. It's aiming for this incredibly comprehensive model, trying to give a mechanical explanation for pretty much everything.
From particles to feelings.
Exactly. From subatomic interactions to subjective human emotion. It even tries to define unreality alongside reality.
Okay, so our mission then is to take this obviously very dense material and sort of unpack its most, let's say, mind-bending ideas. The core concept seems to be that everything matter, energy, space-time, it's all just different shapes or behaviors of one single continuous vector field.
That's the absolute foundation. And underlying that is what the theory calls the law of opposition.
The law of opposition.
Well, yeah, it basically states that nothing can exist without some inherent opposition. Existence is this dynamic tension, this balance of opposing forces within that field.
So if there's no opposition?
There's no definition.
Yeah.
No structure, no reality, just uniform potential.
Which brings us to this concept you mentioned earlier, the cost of being.
Yeah.
Because existence isn't free in this model, is it?
Not at all. It's like the universe's fundamental energy tax. The cost of being, or COBE, is this tiny, non-zero unit of energy needed just to establish and maintain a boundary.
A boundary, like defining this versus that.
Precisely. Defining anything against the infinite potential of the background field. Think of it like the absolute minimum processing power needed to render 1 pixel of reality. It's the physical price for differentiation.
The price for making something actual instead of just potential.
Exactly. The transition from infinite potential to discrete actuality costs something.
So if I, pick up this pen, the universe is constantly paying this tiny cube just to keep the pen defined.
Yeah.
As a pen. That sounds almost, philosophical.
It bridges the gap, really. The theory sees it as fundamentally mechanical. It represents this value symbolically, sometimes as $0 or 1 cent, or mathematically as in 50 plus 1. But the key point is, physically, it's non-zero.
It's the tiny gap.
The infinitesimal but real gap between potential and actuality.
Okay, I have to push back a little here, just for clarity. If this cost is so fundamental, how does VFT claim to show it's real? Is there a physical effect, something testable, not just accounting?
There is, and it claims to tackle a huge puzzle in cosmology, cosmological redshift.
The fact that light from distant galaxies seems stretched out redder.
Right. VFT says as a photon travels across the universe, it has to constantly pay this tiny Cobb unit at every single Planck scale step of its journey.
So they got a tiny energy leak.
A continuous, minuscule energy loss. Accrued over billions of light years, that loss is what we observe as redshift. The light is literally, you could say, getting tired paying the tax just to keep existing as it moves.
Wow, okay. And the theory actually puts a number on this tax.
It does. The calculated value for 1 unit of Cobb is incredibly small, about 5.268 times 1080 joules per Planck length traveled.
That's, unimaginably tiny.
Absolutely minuscule compared to particle physics energies. But VFT argues it's the minimum energy required for definition itself at the most basic level. Its predictive power hinges on this length, the cost of definition causing the observed decay of light.
Which leads us nicely into the next bit, because this idea of a non-zero gap, VFT uses it to challenge mathematics itself, specifically the identity 0.9999
Exactly. Mathematically, we accept that limit. VFT argues that physically, based on the cost of being, they cannot be truly identical.
Okay, let's break this down for you listening. If VFT is right, what separates the endless decimal 0.999s from the whole number $1?
One single infinitesimal unit, what VFT calls $1.50.
The cost of being again.
Precisely. That infinitesimal gap is the physical Cobb. It's the energy expended when the infinite potential, represented by the series ball 49990 laws, resolves into a single defined unit, $1. The very act of defining 1 costs energy, so $0.99999 are separated by that cost.
That's a fundamental rethink. Saying physical reality puts constraints on abstract math. Okay, how does this field-based view change our understanding of classic physics? Let's start with mass and gravity. What is mass in VFT?
VFT completely flips the script here. Mass fundamentally is time compressed into space.
Time compressed.
Yeah, imagine space. the vector field, as like a uniform fluid. If you compress a region of that fluid geometrically, you increase the time density in that spot, that high time density region. That's what we perceive as mass.
Okay, so if mass is dense time, what's gravity?
Gravity is the ripple effect. It's the propagating compression wave or gradient moving outward from those high time density massive regions.
Like pressure waves in the fluid.
Exactly. It's not space-time bending in the Einsteinian picture, but a mechanical pressure wave in the vector field. And crucially, this wave travels at the speed of light.
Ah, so that solves the old Newtonian problem of gravity acting instantly across distances.
Beautifully, yes. Gravity becomes a real physical effect traveling at a finite speed, tied directly to the field's dynamics.
And if our measurements, our rulers and clocks, are also made of this field, this must connect to relativity, right? Time dilation, length contraction.
Precisely. If mass is high time density and moving fast changes your interaction with the field, then things like time slowing down or lengths appearing shorter aren't just perspective tricks.
They're real effects on the measuring tools themselves.
Yes, because your ruler and your clock are part of the field. When your own time phase shifts due to velocity, your local measurement, which is essentially counting these time-space units, changes relative to someone else. The grid doesn't shrink. The concentration of time within each unit changes, making your ruler seem shorter.
Incredible. Okay, let's shift from space-time geometry to charge geometry. VFT says properties like electric charge come from stable harmonic states. Can you break down these harmonics for us?
Think of them like stable vibrations or standing waves in the vector field. The baseline is the 0.50 harmonic that represents perfect geometric balance, neutrality.
Like the Higgs boson, maybe, the 0 point.
Exactly. It defines that neutral observational flame. It's the equilibrium state.
And charges, positive and negative.
They arise from imbalances, which the law of opposition demands. Positive charge, like a positron, corresponds to the 0.25 harmonic. It's a sort of geometric deficit, a quarter wave relative to the balanced 0.50.
Okay.
Negative charge, like an electron, is the opposite, the 0.75 harmonic, a geometric surplus, a three-quarter wave expression. They exist in balanced opposition around the neutral 0.50 baseline.
And it's this opposition that creates electromagnetism.
That's the engine of it, yes.
Yeah.
The tension between these unbalanced states.
Which then provides VFT's answer to the hierarchy problem, why electromagnetism is so vastly, ridiculously stronger than gravity, like 10 times stronger.
An almost unimaginable ratio, yeah. But VFT suggests a structural reason. Both gravity and electromagnetism are described as planar effects, fundamentally similar in dimension.
So why the huge difference?
Gravity is the gentle, diffuse strain associated with the 0.5 harmonic. It's the background hum of the universe just existing in equilibrium. Electromagnetism, though, is the intense, localized strain caused by the active difference, the aggressive opposition, between the 0.25 and 0.75 charge states.
Ah, so gravity is the field being stable. Electromagnetism is the field actively fighting itself due to charge imbalance.
Precisely. The sheer tension of that opposition generates the vastly stronger force. It's quite an elegant concept, actually.
It really is. Okay,
Right.
Let's make the big jump now. From physics to consciousness. This is where VFT gets really ambitious, bridging mechanics to human experience through something called the Psochic hegemony.
Psochic hegemony, yeah. It combines psyche, meaning mind or soul, with hegemonicon, the ruling principle. It's the proposed framework for how our internal mental structure, our beliefs, our philosophy, governs how we perceive reality and make choices.
It's like the interface layer.
Kind of like the central processing unit, yeah, where the objective mechanics of the field meet our subjective sense of self.
And within this, within our minds, emotion isn't just psychological. It's described as a physical measurement. Moral strain, sigma. So if I'm feeling anxious, is that literally a measurable tension in the field?
According to VFT, yes, absolutely. The entire range of subjective feelings is proposed to be the conscious mind's direct physical perception of this moral strain.
Which is defined as...
Tension or deviation from a state of objective equilibrium in the universal field.
Okay, so positive emotions, feeling peaceful, joyful. That's when my internal state is aligned with the universe's natural flow, low strain.
Exactly. You feel peace when your internal vector structure, your mindset, aligns with what the theory calls the objective ideal world, the path of least resistance, universal equilibrium.
And negative emotions, fear, anger, stress.
That's the perception of high strain, high resistance. It means you're consciously or subconsciously pushing against the natural gradient of the vector field. Your choices or state are creating significant tension. Emotion becomes your internal gauge measuring that external tension.
That's a profound connection. linking objective reality to subjective feeling. The theory even offers a formula for how intent becomes reality, the equation of manifestation.
Yes, it's written as I psi times kappa times pi to mu. Let's decode that.
Okay,
Psi is pi is will. That's the directive force, the what you want, your intention.
got it.
Kappa is knowledge, the structural framework, the how, the plan, the understanding.
Right.
And pi ma is possibility. That's the field of potential, the what can be done given the physical constraints, the available resources, basically.
And these multiply together.
To produce mu manifestation, which isn't just one thing, it's a set of outcomes. Matter, like a physical object, action, the process, theta, a change in state, and motion.
So let's say I want to manifest building a really good chair.
Okay. You need strong will. You
Yeah.
really want that chair. You need knowledge, woodworking, how to use tools, the design, and you need possibility. You have the wood, the tools, the time, the space.
And if any of those is zero,
Then the whole equation goes to zero. No manifestation. If you have infinite will but zero knowledge of carpentry or no wood, no chair gets built. It's a very practical model in a way.
a model for intent meeting reality. Now, if VFT offers such a neat unified picture, why isn't it widely accepted? The theory anticipates this resistance, doesn't it, with the inverse square law of worldview?
It does. It argues that this resistance isn't just stubbornness, it's almost physical. It posits that our consciousness, our worldview, is literally built from stabilized vector patterns in the field. Our beliefs are physical structures. A deeply held conventional worldview creates an enormous resistance, mathematically described as worldview squared.
So the more entrenched your views, the exponentially harder it is to accept something contradictory.
Exactly. That resistance acts like a massive barrier. The theory suggests the brain, operating under a principle called the law of necessity, basically, minimizing strain and ensuring survival registers the high-strain complexity of VFT as noise, or even a threat, an impossibility, a lie.
That's incredibly meta. Your own beliefs physically blocking new information. So who can grasp VFT, according to the theory? Who overcomes this barrier?
It predicts two main paths. First, the path of least resistance, the agnostic. Someone with low inherent worldview rigidity. Their worldview squared barrier is small, so the new information can flow in more easily.
Less pre-existing structure to push against.
Right. The second path is the path of balanced knowledge, the spiritualist. Someone with, say, high spiritual knowledge, but crucially, they must also be open to rigorous science and math. That balance allows them to integrate the ideas without shattering their existing framework entirely.
Fascinating. Okay, we've covered a huge range, from the tiniest energy costs to the nature of belief. Let's wrap up with some concrete predictions and the ultimate implications. What's a key testable prediction from VFT?
One of the most specific is about dark matter. VFT predicts a stable neutral particle it calls the Hamilton boson.
Which is?
Essentially the stable 0.5 harmonic state, but at a very specific high energy level. The theory predicts its mass quite precisely, around 30.6 PeV, that's peta electron volts.
Which is very heavy.
Extremely heavy. It falls into the super heavy dark matter category. The prediction is that we should potentially be able to detect signals from its decay or annihilation, maybe through high-energy neutrinos or gamma rays from dense regions like galactic centers.
Okay, a concrete target for experiments. And what about weird quantum stuff, like tunneling, where a particle gets through a barrier it shouldn't?
VFT doesn't see it as just a probabilistic quirk. It proposes tunneling is a real physical traversal. The particle literally takes a detour through a higher dimensional phase space, one of the other time phases embedded within the continuous vector field structure. It goes around the barrier in our familiar 3 spatial dimensions.
A higher dimensional shortcut. Interesting. And before the really big implications, I have to mention the theory apparently loops back to pop culture, giving a physics meaning to the famous answer, 42.
Yes, it's presented as a bit of a meta joke within the source material. The idea is that 42 isn't the meaning of life, but the structural definition of our universe. It references the 10-42 ratio in the hierarchy problem.
The number that defines the fundamental strength difference between forces in our reality.
Exactly. It's the number that quantifies our universe's specific structural imbalance.
Okay. And finally, consciousness again. The law of necessity and ideas like quantum immortality.
Right. The law of necessity is key here. It basically dictates that any state or action required for a conscious entity to continue existing to maintain its unique, complex, harmonic frequency pattern in the field will occur.
So consciousness isn't passive.
Not at all. It's constantly active, according to VFT. It's selecting and reinforcing the specific branch of reality within the infinite potential field where its own existence is possible.
And that continuous selection, that's the physical basis for always perceiving yourself as surviving, like in the quantum immortality thought experiment.
That's the proposed mechanism, yes. Your consciousness necessitates the reality branch where it persists.
Wow. We have certainly navigated a vast conceptual landscape today. I mean, bringing math, physics, charged geometry, and even subjective emotion under one single theoretical roof. It's ambitious, to say the least.
It really is. The idea that emotion is literally you perceiving the physical tension of the universe within your own being, that's a powerful synthesis.
What really stands out is that core idea, that the laws of physics aren't just abstract rules. They're driven by this fundamental need to resolve tension and, well, pay that cost of being.
Yes. It tries to provide a mechanical why for so many mysteries, constantly shifting definitions from abstract ideas to physical processes, mass as density, gravity as compression, emotion as strain.
It provides a framework where the universe isn't just static, it's constantly doing something to maintain its own definition.
Exactly.
So the final question then, for you listening, what does all this mean? If this VFT perspective holds any water, if our universe is just one stable, low-strain bubble in some vast, timeless cosmic foam, and if the Big Bang isn't unique, but maybe just the default state of the field needing to define itself, does that law of necessity imply something staggering?
Which is?
That the creation of the universe isn't some one-off miracle, but maybe a continuous, unending process. Spontaneous order constantly emerging from infinite chaos, just to satisfy that fundamental cost of being. Something to think about next time you feel a little bit of that moral strain.